The verdict is in the Ben Roberts-Smith defamation trial. Of course, Ben Roberts-Smith, the Victoria Cross recipient, was accused of murdering civilians and unarmed prisoners, as well as ordering executions and assaulting his comrades, amongst other things, by a number of newspapers. He then sued them for defamation. But after 5 years of legal process, 41 witnesses and over $25 million in legal costs, the verdict has come down in favour of those publications. To talk to us about what all this means, Alex Martin is the Director of Taurus Legal Management. He's on the line with us. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
There's a couple of things here. The first thing is that the response to this and the headlines that have come out, calling Ben Roberts-Smith a war criminal, and media outlets reporting that a judge has found that he murdered these people, etc.,
yes,
is a little bit misleading in the sense that this was a defamation trial, not a criminal trial.
Yes, that's right. I think it's been treated by the media and the public in general as a de facto war crimes trial, but it is not that. What it is a defamation case. So what's happened is Ben Roberts, some allegations have been made against Ben Roberts-Smith in 3 newspapers, including the Canberra Times, and then he sued them for defamation, saying that those things are defamatory. And then the newspapers have successfully defended that case, and they've established that it's more likely than not, and only that, it's more likely than not that those things are true, and therefore the defamation case is dismissed. So that's what's happened.
Because that's something that Heston Russell, another former Special Forces officer, posted a video on his Twitter account yesterday talking about the difference between the balance of probabilities and the test of beyond reasonable doubt. And that's the reality here. So what we have here is a judgment on the balance of probabilities. What does that mean from a legal sense as opposed to beyond reasonable doubt, which would be the test in a criminal trial?
Yeah, so that's the key difference, the civil burden of proof, if you like, versus the criminal one. So because it's a civil case, so it's about damages, he was suing for damages, for damage to his reputation, and that's been dismissed, so he doesn't get his damages. In a civil trial like that, a damages claim, all you need to do is prove that it's more likely, that they weigh up which is the more likely scenario. So the judge has found that it's more likely that he committed these acts that he's accused of than he didn't. Whereas in a criminal trial, you need to prove that it's very likely, so that beyond reasonable doubt, you need to prove that it actually it's any reasonable person would come to the conclusion that they did it, and that's where you can go to jail. So when you're dealing with a criminal, burden of proof is higher, because you eventually, if that was proven, and Ben Roberts-Smith could end up in jail for war crimes.
So how does it? Because now some of the journalists involved are calling for the Defence Force or the criminal courts to now take over and charge him with these crimes. Given that they are historical, I imagine if that burden of proof could have been met, these charges would have been brought a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. There was certainly an investigation by the military, and I think they found that they were difficult, too difficult charges to bring. So it is still possible that they will bring those charges. He could be charged as a war criminal. He could be prosecuted by the Defence Force, and he could even be, subject of disciplinary action. But I think that it's a reality that this is something that happened a long time ago. There was only a few people there. There's conjecture about what happened and didn't happen. I think proving something beyond reasonable doubt on the evidence I've seen would probably be difficult.
Now, the publications involved used the truth defence in this defamation case. I've never understood how you could actually defend it on any other terms.
Yes, well, that's right. I mean, that's the main defence to defamation. I suppose one defence that's available is you say, well, I didn't defame, so that the allegations that are made in the article weren't defamatory. So, I mean, in this case, they were talking about unlawful killing. They were talking about war crimes. They're things that are clearly defamatory, but sometimes there's an argument about whether there's defamatory imputations, as they call them. So that's one potential defence. But the main one is truth, that what you've actually said is true. And that's certainly what was established in this case.
So with the costs here, because we've heard this could have been, the legal fees are somewhere between $25 and $50 million, which is absolutely extraordinary. Were there cost orders handed down yesterday?
No cost order were made yesterday. So what normally happens in these big trials is you have a decision by the judge, and they lay out their reasons, and then both parties go away and read that and then make submissions at a later date on costs. So it's very likely that Ben Roberts-Smith will have to pay the costs of the newspapers, or at least some portion of their costs, because it seems like he's pretty comprehensively lost his case. He's brought a case, he's lost it. Very likely he'll have to pay costs, but that hasn't been decided by the court yet.
The key here is, and I guess this is a cautionary tale for anybody else considering defamation proceedings, is that fair enough, I think you need to be able to protect your reputation, but the process of defending your reputation can be equal as damaging.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's two key things to take away from this. One is if you bring a proceeding, you want to be absolutely sure that you're going to win. You want to make sure that you've got very strong evidence. And I think Ben Roberts-Smith didn't have strong evidence. He had a lot of his own soldiers came out against him.
Yep.
And then number two, you've got to be conscious that the legal process is just a small part of the equation. The reality is there's a media circus and there's a whole lot of stuff going on beyond that. And I think if you bring a defamation proceeding, and I think this has happened to a number of high-profile people. You're very likely to actually cause more media interest in your story and potentially more damage to your reputation. Even if he'd won this case, I think his reputation would still be shot.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you, in your view, what do you think the likelihood that criminal charges will result from this?
I think it's pretty low. I don't think he'll be prosecuted as a war criminal. I think that the evidence, I think, was overwhelming in the sense that that on the balance of probabilities, he's the things that he was alleged to have done, he's probably done, but I don't think there's enough evidence to prove it to a criminal court.
Alex, good to talk to you. Appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Stephen.
Alex Martin from Taurus Legal Management.